Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my new subscribers also. Maybe the first time you're looking at some of the videos on the channel, welcome. Thank you all for your support over the last few weeks. The existing subscribers and new ones in coming on board. Please don't forget my competition running to the end of this month. Any new subscribers or people who introduce, who comment under the competition video box will get entered into the draw to win my Arnhem book, It Never Snows in September by Robert Kershaw, sitting over to my left here. Be happy to send that out, or the equivalent monetary value, to my friends overseas. So today I just wanted to do an overview, my general thoughts on an arrival I mentioned in my last video, and that is some new rules I've come across from a company called BelloLudi, Dutch company, I believe. I've been liaising with Peter van Dop, who's behind these, and I'd made a purchase of a couple of sets through Wargames Vault recently. Was speaking to Peter, suggested that I might be able to do a bit of a review video, having sort of had a look at it in a bit more detail. Decided to order some other sets along with a deck of cards and some dice, and Peter kindly sent me some review copies of hard copies of the rules as well, so thank you for that. And this is the video kind of summarising what I've got and my general thoughts on the system. The reasons for looking at this system really came down to one thing, and that is that I've got some armies that I've never quite been able to find the right rule set for. It needs to be a big battle rule set. For me, it was to do something with my very dormant Union 28mm American Civil War, to do something with my dormant 6mm Mulberian Allied Ramillies army, and to do something with my recently acquired 6mm Hastings or Norman Conquest period armies, both Normans and Saxons. So what I was looking for was maybe a rule system that would give me the chance to encompass some or all of those elements, and I'm hoping BelloLudi might well be the one. Certainly at the face of it will give me some basis of something that I can use for those forces. So BelloLudi is very much aimed, as it says in the rule books, which I'll come on to, at the novice gamer, the new gamer, but I think it has a lot to offer for the experienced wargamer as well. And as you know, in the channel, it's all been about trying to encourage new blood into the hobby, to sort of share some of my own experiences, and hopefully to encourage people to talk amongst themselves in the gaming community and encourage new people into the gaming community. So these struck a chord with me. I mean, this is a paper copy, it's a small booklet. This is the strategy game. I think this must have been the original game. Runs to 16 pages, got a nice contents page in there as well. It's in full colour, as you can see there, full colour pictures. It's set out really nicely, and you've even got a quick reference sheet on the back. So very straightforward. As I say, you can download buy the PDF versions through Wargames Vault as well, so if you then want to print out things like the quick reference sheet for use on the gaming table, you can do that. So really straightforward. The only thing I would say, having looked at the three books that I've purchased, which are the strategy game, the Ancient and Medieval Warfare, and the American Civil War game, is there are a few typos in there, probably mainly caused from translation into English. So just maybe someone needed to proofread them a bit better before they were written in English. As I say, some spelling or translation errors in there, but nothing that detriments the game in any shape or form. And certainly, I'd say to Peter, going forward, if you're ever releasing anything in an English translation, I'd be more than happy to have a look at that for you. So just to give you a kind of summary overview of the game and the way it works, it's very much an I go you go system, which I must admit I've never been a massive fan of. However, I am open-minded to it in certain situations, and I think it works perfectly okay in terms of what we're trying to achieve here. And again, it's perfect for the new gamer who's trying this for the first time. However, where it comes into its own is that you are using command dice to activate brigades of units, and it's using this D20 that actually only has numbers from 0 to 3 on it and one letter B. And this is the key core mechanic of the system, which I think is fantastic, and it adds friction, importantly, into all the rule sets. This uses the same system across them all, so it's unique to them all. And what you've got there is a system where you roll for your brigade, and you'll have 0, 1, 2 or 3 orders that you can allocate to units in that brigade, or a blunder or something bad happens. And because obviously there's only one side with the B on, it's not going to be a game killer or anything like that, but what it does do is throw that kind of uncertainty into the game. And a blunder generally means you're going to be forfeiting the turn for that brigade. They're not going to be able to do very much, and there could be implications of that. For me, that means the I go you go system can work, and I think that's a really clever way of building some friction in. If you've got your general there, once a turn a general can re-roll that command dice, so obviously that could be quite critical at certain times when you need certain things to happen. And that's meant to kind of signify chain of command and communication down the different levels of command in your army. It uses a morale system rather than removal of casualties, so you kind of have a shaken, routed, disordered kind of morale conditions. I think it's disordered that will again stop you having kind of certain types of orders, and again that's replicated across the system. So the morale, the command system, movement activation system is pretty much the same across all the systems, and that works really, really well. So what we then get is to the elements that add chrome into the system. So for example, the American Civil War system, alongside the sort of standard activation system, firing melee systems, again nothing majorly different there, but what you've got alongside that is the chrome for the period. So in here you've got things like sharpshooters, artillery, Gatling guns, mortars, things like the Rebel Yell, just all adding flavour, historical flavour to that period. And what you've also got is the ability to scale units up or down in terms of the quality and how you want them represented in the scenario that you're playing. But there's a sample sort of army list in there to give you a flavour, and you could use a point system if you wished to basically build up a force, but I don't think you necessarily have to use that point system if you don't want to. In the ancient and medieval one, again we've got things in there. We've got some slightly different types of troops, like missile troops, alongside your infantry and cavalry types. You've got advanced rules in there, so things like pilums, war bands, pikes, longbows, lances, camels, elephants, and chariots. So again, lots of chrome for the period that you're operating in, but ultimately the mechanisms are very similar, and the strategy game, which I think must have been the first one, is very much kind of, I think, probably more in tune with things like Napoleonic period, that sort of 1700 to 1900s is actually the official kind of spectrum. So that encompasses quite a lot. Now, this is where one thing I did get a little bit confused with, and I've made some assumptions here that maybe this game was written first, and then these additional supplements, and there are quite a few other ones we'll cover in a moment, were written as well. But it gets a bit confusing when this one is covering that kind of time scale, but then you've got other books that cover things like the American Civil War, which obviously cross the same boundary. So I think if you want something fairly generic, you can go strategy. If you want something a bit more specific with the chrome, you would go maybe for the period specific book there. Again, I'm sure Peter, if you're watching this, you'll correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but that's kind of the way I've interpreted it. I'm going to talk about one other element, important element of chrome across the rule system in a moment, and that is the card decks. But before I do that, I just wanted to kind of summarise some of the other elements of the range. So, as I say, we've got the strategy game, we've got the ancient medieval, we've got the American Civil War, we've got a 1530 to 1660 supplement, we've got big battles for 1660 to 1721, we've got skirmish, we've got muskets 1700 to 1865, we've got rifles 1865 to 1914, and we've also got World War I, World War II. I can't comment on those, but as I say, there's a lot of crossover in the different systems at times, so it could be a little bit confusing whether you need all or some of these if you're collecting a particular force for a particular period. But as I say, the three sets I've got are the strategy, the American Civil War, and the ancient and medieval. The other thing is with the card decks, which I'm going to discuss in a moment, you've got 3 card decks to choose from. So you've got the ancient and medieval, you've got the 1700 to 1900, and you've got a skirmish deck, but there's nothing else. So I think you fit the deck to the period that you're playing, or rule system that you're playing there. Support wise, there is lots of support out there. I mean, obviously you can go to the authors directly. So Peter was very easy to talk to, very supportive. But there's great support on the website as well at BelloLudi. You've got army lists on there, quick reference sheets, you've got calculators, markers, chips. There's addendum on there as well, with some errata. As I say, all positive support. The quick reference is really easy in each of the rule sets, so you can get that off the website anyway. So there's lots of information out there for what is a very straightforward system from that point of view. The cards, as I say, are the other very much chrome element of the rule set, and what you get is a deck like this, depending on the system. This is the strategy deck. You've got a lot of cards in this deck, as you can see here. They're all printed, really good thick card. I don't think you'd need to protect them. They're in a plastic box anyway, and the cards offer different positives, negatives to your game, depending on what you're playing. So basically, there's 21 positive cards in the deck, 21 negative cards, and 12 commander cards that can negate either or of the things that you're playing there. So it adds again some nice chrome, some uncertainty, and some strategy to the game. These can be played at any point in the game. You can swap them around, you can pass them to friends if you're playing a multiplayer game. but basically you get allocated 1 card per general or commander on a side, and you can refresh them at the end of each turn. So you're always going to have some cards in play, and I think they add, as I say, a good element of realism, but they don't overpower the game either, in terms of the things that they offer. The ancient and medieval ones have certainly got some more specific period elements to them. For example, inspiring leaders, you've got courage, inspiring speeches, credible shot, fast as lightning, extra ammunition. There's some good things in there. The only thing I would say again, with perhaps the wording or terminology used, it's not always period specific. So you've got cards in there mentioning battalions in the ancient and medieval deck. It doesn't bother me. I can interpret what that means, but it may be a little bit confusing to the new player. So again, it may be just the wording could have been slightly different from that point of view. But these are small things. Terminology is a small thing. I think the card deck is great. I think the dice activation mechanism is great as well. And for me, they're the 2 key elements of the game that work really, really well. So go and give them a look. Have a look at the website. As I say, there's lots of information on there. If you prefer electronic copies, because obviously post from Holland is quite expensive, then you can go to Wargames Vault. I believe you can also buy some of the sets through Caliber Books as well in the UK. And I'm sure there'll be other overseas providers out there. But I hope that's given you a good insight into the BelloLudi system, the dice, the cards, the rules themselves, as I say, really nicely produced, good production values, full colour little pamphlets, and I think there's a lot of scope here for house ruling or adapting to the game you're trying to play. But I'm certainly looking forward to utilising the American Civil War, my Mulberian, my Hastings Norman Conquest forces within this rule set and giving it a go. And if in due course I'm able to do that, I'll be happy to post a further review at that point, once I've been able to do that as well. But I hope that's given you a good overview, as I say, of BelloLudi Wargames rules for the new Wargamer, but I think also for the more experienced Wargamer as well. And you can layer it up or down as you please, depending on how basic or advanced you want the system to be. But good to bring you the video. Hope you've enjoyed it. Any comments, as always, greatly appreciated, and look forward to seeing you next time.